Hi there guys, today we're going to set up a simple network using RRAS. So to do so we would need to have two server computers and two client computers, and on the server computers we need to configure whatever server that you want, but in this particular scenario we have configured Windows Server 2012 R2, and for the clients we're going to configure Windows 8 operating system. So basically we are going to create our network, and we're going to test it as well. Before that creation of the network, we have segmented the network creation into 5 steps. So the very first step is assigning IP addresses to each server and client. The second one would be setting routing and remote access properties, installing remote access control on server, then RRAS configuration, and then finally setting the static routing. So it's going to be fun. We're going to set up the network and then we're going to test it. So this is the network diagram for our network. So we have two server computers over here, and we have our two client computers over here as well. So here we have 3 networks within this big network. So this is our first network, and then this is our second network over here, and then the third network which is over here. Now we are using class C IPs throughout the network. So the IP addresses are assigned to each and every network interface card. So as you can see, the servers are equipped with 2 network interface cards, and the clients have 1 network interface card each. Now we're going to talk about the IP addressing of our network. So we're going to start by discussing about our IP address of our client number 1. So the client number 1 over here has an IP address of 192.168.1.2, and the client number 2 over here has an IP address of 192.168.3.2. Then moving on to the servers. The servers, as I told you, has 2 network interface cards. So the server 1's first network interface card we have assigned 192.168.1.1 as IP, and then so for the second network interface card on the server we have assigned 192.168.2.1, and on the server 2 the first network interface card has 192.168.2.2 as its IP, and then the second network interface card has 192.168.3.1 as its IP. Now unlike the servers, the client has to be given a default gateway in order to communicate among each other. Let's say the client number 1 wants to connect with client number 2 over here. So the client number 1 will need to have a default gateway in order to communicate to the client number 2. So to do that we have given the default gateway over here, which is 192.168.1.1, which is pretty much the IP address on the network interface card number 1 on the server number 1, if you can see here. And also if the client number 2 wants to contact the client number 1, it has to go through the default gateway 192.168.3.1, which is the IP address on the second network interface card of server number 2, which is pretty much the IP over here. So you can understand the relationship between the IP addressing and also the default gateways. So this is our network diagram. So we're going to go ahead and implement this network diagram on a real live computer network. So let's see how it goes. The server installation is pretty simple, so I'm gonna fast forward the installation process for you. So we're going to go ahead and assign IPs for our client right now. To do that, we had to go and open network and sharing center. From there, we had to select our network interface card, go to properties, and select IPv4. To tick on the use the following IP address option, and we had to assign the IPs over here. So for my first client, I'm going to give IPs which is 192.168.1.2, and the subnet mask is automatically assigned, and then the default gateway, it's going to be 192.168.1.1. So we have configured the IP for our client number 1, and then we had to go and configure the IP for our server number 1 as well. Now we're going to go ahead and assign IPs for our server number 1. So we had to open up network and sharing center, and then we had to go and select our first NIC card and properties, and then scroll down and select IPv4. Now we have to assign the IPs here, so it's going to be 192.168.1.1 for my first server, and then the subnet mask will automatically be assigned. So press OK. Now done. So we had to do the same for our second NIC card as well. So go to properties, IPv4, then assign the IP. So it's going to be 192.168.2.1, and subnet mask will automatically be selected. So if you have done it correctly, now we should be able to ping from our server to our client. So we'll check whether we have done it properly. So open up command prompt, and we can go ahead and check whether it's working or not. So I'm going to try to ping. So ping 192.168.1.2, which is our client's IP. Yep, as you can see, it's pinging, so we have configured it properly. We had to go to administrative tools and select services, and we had to find routing and remote access. So as you can see, it's already disabled at the moment, so we had to go ahead and set it as automatic. To do that, we just right click on it and go to properties, and from the drop down we had to select as automatic. So just press OK. From server manager, select manage and add roles and features, and then select on next, next again, and from here we had to select remote access, so click on that, and then we had to go and select next again, next again, and from here we had to tick on routing, and then from server manager, go to tools and select remote routing and remote access, and now right click on local and configure and enable routing and remote access, so the wizard will come on. So next, and from here we had to tick on custom configuration and press on next. From here we are going to select LAN routing, and then we're going to go and select next, and the installation will take place now. So it should be configured. Yeah, it will take a little bit of more time. Yeah, so done. Now we have configured the static routing on our server. So we have come to the part where we're going to assign the static routing on our network. So before that, just to identify the three networks which is within our big network clearly, I have put it in three different colors. So this is one network over here, the second network over here, and then the third network over here. So we should be able to ping from our server number 1 to client number 1, and server number 2 to client number 2 if we have followed the instructions properly. So the only thing which is left is to ping from the server number 1 to server number 2, and that is going to be our static routing. So what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and implement static routing. So to assign the static routing here, on the second network interface card of server number 1, we have to give the network ID of the network number 3, which is over here, which is 192.168.3.0, and over here, which is the network interface card number 1 of the server number 2, we have to give the network ID of our first network, which is 192.168.1.0. So if we do this properly, we should be able to create the connection between the two servers, and we should be able to ping from our client number 1 to client number 2. In routing and remote access, go ahead and expand this, and then select IPv4 and expand that as well. Then go to static route and right click on it, and then click on new static route, and here you have to select the second network interface card, because this is our server number 1. So we are going to go ahead and assign static routing for our second network interface card on server number 1. Okay, so the destination IP over here is going to be 192.168.3.0, and the network mask is going to be 255.255.255.0, and the gateway is going to be 192.168.2.2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2 So this is the IP addressing for our static routing on our first server. Similarly, in server number 2 also, you have to assign the static route. So you have to go here, right click, new static route. Now here we have to select the first network interface card, and the destination IP here will be 192.168.1.0, and then the new network mask will be 255.255.255.0, and the gateway will be 192.168.2.1. So we have assigned the IP for our server number 2 as well. Yep, let's see how it goes. Open up command prompt and try to ping from my client number 1 to client number 2. So I'm going to ping from my client number 1 to client number 2 right now. So 192.168.3.2, and as you can see, it is pinging. So we have configured the network properly. If you have done it properly, you should be able to ping it from your end as well. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and do check out our other videos as well.